Wow, good morning. It's good to have you with us on Daybreak this particular morning. It's actually been a while. I was asking myself, how am I going to do this? But the good thing about Tuesday is that it's that time when we just get to sit down and have a natural conversation about what happens out there in the society to all of us. How do we become better social beings? And we talk about everything, the wrongs, the good things, the ugly side of life, the good side of life. And the other day, actually, I saw there was a treat here, people wakiongea kuhusu masuala ya mapenzi, but leo nataka kuzima hiyo moto yote and talk about something else that is also equally important. But before I do that, let me just give you a chance to see who I'm having. It's not a panel of new faces, a fully constituted panel of experts. Karibuni sana. Kwanza experts kwa mambo ya maisha, experts kwa mambo ya mapenzi. I like this serious look.
I told you guys
Umeamuaje leo?
This year I'm coming for all the bag. All those contracts. Watch all ninakuanga serious.
Boss lady.
Yeah.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
And you look so beautiful.
Oh, really? Say that again and
goodness.
again. I give you 5 minutes.
I've told you like 6 million times. Let me just add one more. But I know I'll say more when I leave. Oh my goodness, you look so amazing. You look happier, healthier, better. You're just... Valentine's was nice, eh?
To see lakini.
Happy Valentine's.
That's a topic for another day. Oh,
and welcome back.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back, Cutie.
Good to see you. I love the Ankara look.
Oh, nice.
Unakaa tu umepumzika. Yani
hata wewe nimekupatia 5
vacation. Unakaa umepumzika uko tu sawa, but good to see. I missed you.
Thank you so much.
Kwanza last week tuka tumevaa red sisi wote. Hata though the boys said they weren't wearing red,
but they were wearing red.
CJ, I hope utafuata hiyo script vile imeenda. But good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Good to have you back.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Right.
And I'm happy to be back. Let me just fix this. Yeah. So today we want to turn the pages. Last week muliongea kuhusu mapenzi, you talked about love and all that. But today we want to talk about something very serious. You know, on this show, quite a number of times we've talked about divorce, we've talked about separation, the principle, what to do, what not to do. But today we want to talk about it in the context of the children, the ones who were sometimes forgotten when all is happening up there, wazazi wanagombana, or they are thinking of going different ways. It's the children who usually bear the brunt. So we want to talk about matters custody. What is it that, we should consider? Do we have rules on who should take the children and why unafaa kukua kwa mama ama kwa baba? What is culture saying? What is the law saying? And all that will come into the picture. But I want you to be a part of this program, share with us your insights, your thoughts, your experiences, and we welcome all that. But before we do, I want to give Cutie a chance to tell us a bit about when you saw this topic, separation, divorce, and how it impacts children. And right now in the society where we are, tunaona ni kama people are saying, people are losing hope in love, people are losing hope in marriage. Talk about this in the context of children. Most of the time we've talked about this subject with the partners in mind. We usually don't really focus on the children. Now I want you to talk about this in the context of children. What would be your words?
Yes, I feel many better off guard. And when we were discussing about the topic last night, sometimes they say it's like the internet reads your mind. It's like when you start opening things on social media, it starts bringing all those things where you want to really be in that place. But what I can say, Safin, is that separation, a divorce, it's never easy, it's never pretty, it's never something that people want to see or talk about. But you've brought a very good question about the children. We never really think about the children. It's always about what do I want as the mother? What do I want as the father? You don't think about the children at that particular moment. But later on is when you start realizing that the children are really affected. No one even asks the children, where do you want to be? Who do you want to stay with? No one takes that step of asking that question to the children. We always assume, okay, the mother is always right. The mother always has to go with the kids. But who said that the dad can be a better parent, you know. Like the dad can actually be a better parent. I have a friend who the partner left, the wife left when the child was 6 months. And right now the child is actually 2 years. And I'm not saying that he's the better parent, but he's proved to be actually the better parent because she walked away. No one really bothers to think about the children, because you see, we talk about childhood traumas. Most of the time here in this show, we talk about childhood traumas. This child is going to be affected in the sense that the child is used to a certain environment. But now you guys are going separate ways. Who does the child want to remain with? You will not ask. People just assume, you know what? It's always the mom that needs to go with the kids. But sometimes we find that the mother, most of the time, they'll be like, in rare situations, but it happens, the lady will be like, by the way, even you carry that burden, I will not do this. But have you asked this child? The child might be even 2 years, 6 months. You can't ask a 6-month child what they want. But the truth is, have you considered, have you guys actually sat down and asked, what's the good what's the environment? What environment will suit this child? It's always about, we are always selfish, sorry to say, but we are always selfish, like, hey, by the way, I'm bouncing. You know, like you just wake up and forget about everything, especially in a family whereby you might find like 3 or more children are involved, like even 5 children. So no one really bothers about the kids. And I think that's really selfish. And I think that's something that should be considered moving forward. Always think about the children and ask them, like, if they're in a position to actually choose, I think it's really good to actually ask them
what you're describing is really important, but I'm wondering how that conversation would practically look like, Roberta, where these people are in the heat of the moment, there is a disagreement that has actually pushed them to the wall to decide that this is it, like, let's just go our separate ways. Is it possible at that point to really have that genuine conversation of putting the children, the ones who are old at least, who can speak for themselves, and the partners who are in this rivalry, and now have that very, you know, sober conversation? How practical is that from your perspective?
You know, as you're asking me, I was just thinking about how amazing this conversation we're having is, because I think we've talked about something similar, but maybe 2-3 years ago, maybe CJ can remember. And I'm seeing just even my growth within the conversation. Because 2 years ago, how I felt about things, and now just listening even to QT speak, it's like I've gone through a different awakening. It's like I'm at a very different mind space right now. And how I felt 2 years ago about this topic was, I was very angry, I was very bitter, I was very annoyed, because this is something I've gone through personally. So when you're speaking from a lack of awareness, it's so easy to be angry. It's so easy to be like blaming, the blame games, the blame shifting, the anger, the frustration within the relationship. And that's why it's difficult to see that having these conversations is easy. When you're coming from that place of, I don't know better, I've never seen better, I've never had better, watu uko sana na ni sawa, anaweza jitoa, sijali about communication. It's so much, the conversation looks so difficult to have, because how are we going even to start? How do I even start asking a kid? How do I talk to my partner about dividing the kids? Like, how do we go about this? But now, even in myself, I'm seeing that now having this conversation is way easier, because now I'm coming from a place of awareness. I have much more grace, much more kindness. I'm able to be much more respectful and patient. And so the lesson I'm trying to pass across is teach yourself. Teach yourself the awareness. Do not say it's too difficult, because there is no relationship that does not require effort. Whether it's your relationship with your teacher or your friend or your colleague, all relationships require a certain amount of effort, meaning you need to continuously work on self and work on your relationships with other people. So to answer you, Safin, it seems like the conversation is very difficult to have, but I promise once you reach a space where you become, you want to be selfless, you want to put the kids' needs especially above yours, which I feel should be the standard.
Should
I feel like once you have kids, selfishness has to jump out the door. I don't care who you are or how long you've been selfish. Kwanza wale watu wenye usema, mi ukwa hivo, mi nakuanga hivo. Accept. Once you decide, I am pregnant, we're keeping this kid, the intentionality has to walk in the door. Meaning these conversations don't care whether you're selfish, they don't care whether you're angry or you're always frustrated or you're being stressed at work, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
you will have to bring yourself to the awareness and teach yourself, especially now as an adult. Maybe young parents might have it different, but now as an adult, hakuna excuses literally, like, hakuna, huwezi sema ati, no, how do I teach yourself? And how you teach yourself is by working on your communicative skills. It has to start from self. You have to be the kind of person who's selfless, knows how to put the kids above your own selfish needs. Like maybe your feelings are hurt because of the relationship issues you're going through, but that's not supposed to translate in the way you relate with your kids or how you teach your kids about the other parent. I say all this because I grew up in a household where my mom was very, very present, and not once did I ever hear anything mean about the other parent. Whether, yani siwezi hata kuambia what my mom was going through because I don't know, because she didn't make it
she protected you from that.
Yeah, she didn't make it my problem for me to always think, why is this guy not here? Why doesn't he show up? Why aren't things paid? No, my mom just covered it. She just took care of things, and then I know painfully she went and handled the parental issues with the parents, you know. So it's really important that parenting has to be very conscious and very intentional, meaning even these relationships have to have a lot of effort and deliberation. With the communication, how you talk to your kids, how you explain things to them, how you involve them in decision making, how you make it easier for them, and especially how you make it easier for the other parent to parent with you.
All right. Yeah. CJ, having heard both what QT and Roberta are saying, if you mix that and just talk to us about where we used to be as even a society. Do we have principles or rules or, I don't know, negotiations on how such issues should be handled when the parents are not reading from the same script? Do we have guidelines on how we should go about handling this matter in the context of our children, or we are just making these decisions on the go?
Well, you know, before we were very culturally governed, and there's still quite a lot of culture, even within the modern generation and age. It's just that we normally choose when to become, I say that all the time, when to become modern and when to become Africans.
When it favors us, depending on what favors us.
Even when you meet somebody who is 24, whom you'll think this one has grown up in a very different generation, when it comes to certain matters, you'll realize they will fall back to what their culture will dictate. But before, you see, the culture was not just there to be followed, but it also kept the sanity of the society and the communities that they were. These were ways of people resolving their issues. Yeah. Today, of course, we've got also the element of going into legal processes, which is the courts. This was never really something that we would do mostly as Africans before, because you were not supposed to hang your dirty linen outside. Yeah. When it came to matters of family, most people would prefer to solve them. Just like Bobby's saying, you know, the mom would rather solve it elsewhere, very quietly. This is how we did things. As Africans, you find a way, either you talk to your general family elders, you reach out to the other family, reach out to friends whom you feel will help you sort out these things. And so the conversations then would be generally around the kids. It's interesting that today, that's one conversation that we have also put a dent on, because you will hear a lot around relationships, don't do it for the kids. So we flip. We flip, because the people before would actually think about it. They would think about, if I move out, what happens to the kids? If I go this way, what happens to the kids? And some of our mothers and grandmothers, depending on the generation you are in, stayed on for the kids. Some of the fathers and the grandfathers stayed on for the kids to provide the environment Kitty was talking about, where these children are growing up in a space where they have both parents. Of course, that depends on several other dynamics, because if it is very toxic, if it is getting violent, then that environment may not be conducive for the children anyway. But there are those people who felt they had personal differences, yet their differences could be sorted out in private, and they said, we will, for the sake of the children, stay here till they're grown, then you can go ahead and move on with your life, when they can make their own decisions where they want to go, or maybe they've gone out of school, they've gone into college. There are even people who then sometimes would send children to boarding schools because their relationships were cracking and they did not want their children to be exposed to that kind of a thing.
Hey, do we have such people today? I mean, who would think about the children? Actually, let's stay until they are old enough and then we can go our separate ways. Old enough could be 10 years.
Well,
Do we?
but if you put in the intentionality Bobby is talking about, you would. If you put in that intentionality, we are patient with everything else. We're patient with business. And we will stick in it and we'll say, I put in my money into the business. I'm waiting for 5 years before I can even break even. Sometimes it will take longer than the 5 years. And you stick to the business. And it's not that you go to it every day and it is giving you the rewards that you desire. You're facing all kinds of challenges. There are all kinds of vicissitudes. You know, right now, you'll deal with all economic situations. But you say, I put up my money into this business for it to work, and you will be patient. When it comes to relationships, I don't know why we lose that.
What's in it for me? I mean, we're in that generation of what's in it for me. If I'm not getting anything out of it, then
we just lose that. And you know, with the children, Safin, even apart from separation and divorce, even just something like when you're shifting estates, shifting houses, moving schools, it is important to think about them. I may be thinking, you know, I got hit financially, so I need to change schools because I want to cut down on the cost. But then this cost that I'm cutting down on is also coming with a different cost. The psychological effect that this will have on this child. The fact that they're being uprooted from their friends and their ecosystem to be drawn into something different. Sometimes that causes a traumatic experience. Sometimes it causes kids to put on a different personality, get into different behavior. So I think that even without the separation and the divorce, which we will talk about today, every change that involves a child needs to be thought out.
All right. I'll come back to you, and probably you and Roberto can tell us now, how do we engage these children? Do we look at age? Do we look, like, how do we make sure that their concerns are placed on the table and they're catered for, depending on the different dynamics? But before that, QT, let's talk about this habit of people using the children to hurt their partners. Tuseme tu kweli, kuna wale watu maybe hata utaki kwenda na watoto, sio? You don't even, it's not even in your plan, but you're just doing it to hurt your partner because you know how attached they are to these children. So you're using that
to hurt.
Ni kama unaeka salt kwa injury, you're using your children. Let's talk about that habit as well, because it is there and it is rife.
You know, Safin, when I was back in college, when I was a younging, I used to think being a single mother is actually, you know, women empowerment. You have all the money. I'm going to be both a dad and a mom to this child and all that. I used to think it's cool. I'm not saying it's not cool, but in my head, I used to think I want to be a single. Even before I got there, I used to be like, I want to be a single mom. I'm going to take care of this child. I'm going to provide for this child. They will never feel any gap. But right now, like, dynamics have changed. Right now, when I see children asking for their dads or asking for their moms, it's really hurting, and it's really sad, because this child will, at the end of the day, this child will come and ask you questions and be like, where is my dad? Where is my mom? Because this child is going to an environment whereby they're playing outside. The other children are talking about, you know, my dad, you know, my mom, they're going to school, and there's this occasion whereby the children are told to do a family tree. So we expect this child to actually do a family tree of dad, mom, and me. But at the end of the day, you're forgetting not every child in this school has that. And it's actually an issue in schools nowadays, because the child will just do mom and me, or a dad and me. But the teacher will be like, no, the usual setting is supposed to be dad, mom, and me. But the question is, where is dad? Who is going to answer this question to this child? Like, where is dad? Where is mom? And it's really sad, by the way. And let me tell you something, Safin. Right now, every child needs every parent. You cannot be a dad to this. There are things that the dads do that the mom cannot do, and there are things that the mom do that the dad cannot do. So going back to your question is that sometimes we are really selfish, and I decide because this guy left us and walked away when I really needed him, he's not going to see this child. And that's why we have so many custody battles nowadays.
Or I'm going to take these children.
Akwa kituma pesa. Then unapata huyu mtu anasema mimi sitakutumia pesa. Kama sioni watoto, sitakutumia pesa. And that's why nowadays there are so many custody battles. Kitambo there were no custody battles because it would be like, okay, the mom is going, the kids, I'm going to provide. And it used to be okay. But nowadays, men are stepping up and saying, by the way, I need to see my kid and I'm not going to send you money. I'm going to send school fees directly to the school. If the kids want shopping, let me take the kids, spend the weekend with them. They will come back with the shopping because men are like, we're not going to be used anymore because of atio, nitumie pesa. I am sending money and you're not letting me see my kid. Yani nowadays, this generation, it's about wars. It's about the personal wars of, I'm not going to let you see my kids. And you're like, no. If I'm not going to see my kids, then I'm not going to provide. It's your responsibility. You see these conversations, Safin, at the end of the day, they're not helping this child. Going back to that conversation of think about the child. What does this child need? As a single mom, as a single dad, you need to understand that you cannot provide 100% for this kid. You might have all the money in the world, but the presence of this parent is very important. Soccer schools, the dad needs to be there to actually teach this child how to do soccer. I can decide to be a soccer mom, but I can't do what the dad can do. Let's be honest with this one. So this thing of saying, oh, wewe hautaona mtoto kwa sababu wewe unakuanga hivi. Let's stop this selfishness. Just think about the child. Once you start thinking, just observe your child. Every time they come back from school and they ask them, how was school? Wanze kuambia mambo ya subjects, vitu kama hizo. You know, that's actually something that comes up in school. You will see that your child is very sad and they will come and ask you, why do you want to put your child through that, Safin? Like, your child is asking you, where's my dad? And you're like, by the way, he died. Sorry to say, but you see, that's not a very good thing. Your dad is still alive. So when this kid gets to 18, they will go and look for that dad, and that dad will tell them, by the way, your mother did not let me see you. Here are the transactions, here are the school fees, whatever structures. I actually paid for you, but your mom did not let me see you. Then you start creating generational issues and all that. But at the end of the day, just think about your child. As a single mom, think about your child. As a single dad, think about your child and what's best for them.
Yeah, true. There are people who also, Roberta, want to be, maybe they've separated and one partner has gone with the children. You find that this other partner wants to come and pretend that they want to be part and parcel of the life of the children. Ndia vuruge mambo inaendelea huko. Maybe this guy got married again. Maybe mama wants to bring issues. Or it's the other way around. Baby daddy wants to spy to make sure that baby mama doesn't, go out with other guys. I mean, it's all about selfishness, what you're talking about, yeah? But when she was talking about the family tree and from an experience point of view, just give us a perspective of how deep this affects the child,
Kwanza, that made me really, really sad because I had not even thought about it in real time. I had not even thought about how when we were in school, some kids didn't have a mom or a dad. And these are practices we used to be, told to do. And I never really thought about. That's something you've brought up. It made me almost want to tear up. But it's sad because not only is everything about the kids, like it's all you should be thinking about. It's the only thing you should be thinking about.
Yeah.
And this discussion ina come about kwa sababu ya hizi selfishness. Hizi start tuma pesa, start ongea na wewe, start chogone watoi. Everyone is wrong. Everyone. Because, and let me just put a disclaimer, everything QT was saying was when abuse is not in the picture. Yeah. Because if abuse is in the picture, you have the complete right to remove your kids from that situation. Without, so we are not talking about abusive relationships. We're talking about a relationship where people are just hurt. They're just going through pain and they don't know how to navigate it because they're not quite at the space where they're able to have the conversations or like to be honest about how they feel with each other, and it's seeping into the relationship with the kids. And I know it's difficult. I keep saying, I know it's difficult. Najua ni ngumu sana kukua heartbroken na bado unafaa kushow up as a parent. Ni ngumu sana una go through relationship issues and you still have to co-parent and make decisions like which school are we going to go to. But that's why I'm saying, hakuna formula really, hakuna story inaweza kuambia ati Day 1, start journaling. Day 2, go for a run. Day 3, there's no proper, and you had asked CJ this question. What I'd say is the easiest way to get to a point where you're able to make it easier is just to work on yourself. There's no big secret, ama some classes you can take, ama some lessons. I mean, you can go to therapy, you can see a coach, you can do nini. But at the end of the day, all these things just come back to self. They come back to you. What do you want for your family? How do you want your kids to end up? And that's why I said you need to throw away the selfishness. It just has to walk out the door. I don't care how rich you are or how well connected or how you know how to take care of kids. The moment you decide, I'm going to have these kids, you just have to, sijui utajipiga shock ama utajifanya nini. Lazima tu utry your best kujiambia, these kids need the best. Yeah. They need kids better parents. They need us to be. And it really affects. You ask me, how does it affect? Everything affects. From how they dress, to who they talk to where they're going to hang out, to how they relate with other kids, to how they show up in class, to how they even talk to mommy and daddy. All these things, it literally affects everything. At a story wanapiganga. Because I can remember as young as like 6 years old, and we would sit and play kalongo. Those were the things we used to talk about. Like, me daddy wangu akujangi home. Meaning kids are very cognitive. They know exactly
what's going
happening.
On. Yeah.
They can understand what is happening. So while I say that, I understand the pain that heartbreak comes with. I understand it's very difficult to show up. But CJ asked, how is it that we're able to show up for other things? When it's business, unafunga kamba na una show up. When it's work, your boss doesn't care that your boyfriend hasn't texted you Valentine's.
That's very true.
You still have to show up. You know, you're
be
able
your best.
To compartmentalize and say, you know, work is difficult and I'm struggling, but I can do 1, 2, 3.
Great.
So for your kids, niyo tu mdogo. Ukianza tu pole, you reach a point where co-parenting becomes easier. And it doesn't mean that the heartbreak will go away or the feeling of betrayal or pain must go away. But you being a wholesome parent, hapo really hakuna excuses because you made the choice to become a parent.
All right.
Yeah.
That is what it means to be a parent. That there's a part where you have to forget yourself and think about that human being that you brought to the world. But CJ, what are some of the fundamental issues that we should put on the table when deciding which parent should stay with the children?
You know, I love what Bobby brought up, because as Kuti was talking, I thought about the element of emotional stability. That you have to consider the environment within which these children will remain emotionally stable. For example, if one of the parents, ended the relationship, or the relationship ended because one of the parents was acting in a certain way or was emotionally not stable, it would be a bit irresponsible if the children are still young to put them in that environment just in the name of co-parenting. That has got to be controlled. They can get access, but the access has got to be guided and governed and controlled, so that, again, they do not release this trauma. As you say, there are people who will come in just to destabilize the other people. So they'll come in and want to make sure that the kids are not happy and just cause this other environment to become completely unstable. Then it begins to affect the kids. There are spaces where children will meet one of the parents who is probably away from them. And the moment they do that, they just sink into depression, confusion, and stuff like that. And sometimes it is also from the point you talked about, where somebody's trying to get to the other partner. So they're not happy that the children are happy with the other partner. They just want to make the kids sad to make the other partner look like they are failing. So emotional stability cannot be compromised at all. You can also not compromise the element of continuity. For example, if the children are in a school, they're fitted in, everything is okay for them, or they live within a certain environment, community, estate, they've built friendships, and there's no reason why they should actually move from that place, then the other parent should consider that as a factor. if I decide to take these kids, I'm uprooting them from social networks, from a support system, and they need this continuity. Probably they're preparing for exams, probably they're preparing for certain things that they're at a crucial stage in their life where they do not need to be destabilized. So I need to allow them to go through that process. You know, I'm aware of a case one time where a man who had disowned the child from birth showed up when this kid was about to sit KCPE and now forcefully trying to come into the life of this kid. Like, I need to go with this kid. That's crazy. Because
that was not the time.
It's not the time.
Yeah.
Just let the continuity this kid has built up, their academics, their friendships. It's not a do or die something, you know, it's not that they're dying tomorrow. Let them sit their exams, then you can have those conversations later. So some people are also very disruptive because they come in at a time when this person needs this element of continuity. There's the element also of, I think, capacity. Like, if I give you the kids, do you have the capacity to take care of them?
Take care of them.
But
sometimes that is why you want the kids, because you cannot even take care of yourself. So you need the kids so that you have
because
somebody
we
take care
both
of you.
we both know whether you have capacity. And it's not the thing of looking down on the other partner. You will just know mentally, emotionally, financially. Because even emotionally, Safin, even just mentally, there's somebody who will be with the kids. They may have the money, but they'll keep on flipping. They can't stay with the kids for 3 hours. They will flip. They just can't. They can't. So they have to bring in a lot of other people to take care of the kids. And yet, probably the parent you want to take these kids from has a way with these children. So if you really love those kids, then you will just allow them to stay there because they're in a place that, you know, the other person has capacity. Sometimes also you consider the element of their connectivity even to families. If, for example, Bobby going with the children means that these kids have gotten connected to her mother, to her siblings, to all of that. Then I want to pull them out, and then we're just going to be me and this one, you know, the two of us in some cold desert.
Oh my God.
In some cold desert, just to prove that, you know, I'm a dad and I'm present. Well, I will be playing the role of a dad. But then, again, as Kitty said, I can't play the other roles.
That's very true.
And this kid needs all the other people. They need their uncles, they need their cousins, they need everybody in their lives. So I've got to keep on asking myself, as I want to take custody, what is my motivating factor? Why do I want to take custody? Is there any reason why these children should move from where they are to come to me? Is there a way I can play a role in their lives while they are where they are without destabilizing them? Or am I doing this for my ego? Am I doing this to hurt the other person? Am I doing this because the other side is not stable? And lastly, to say, sometimes again, you know, just to flip it, sometimes somebody may feel the children have stayed with one parent, but then this parent now keeps on bringing all kinds of people into their lives.
True.
So these kids are exposed to different stepdads and stepmoms every now and then. That's again very...
That's dangerous as well.
It is crazy. And then some of those parents will insist they're going on dates and they're going with these kids. So this kid meets this person today, meets the other one tomorrow and the other one tomorrow. I think eventually, this is why in the past, sometimes grandparents used to take the kids.
True.
Just to remove the children from the chaos that people would have until they fix their relationship lives. So what I would say, look, if you know yourself, and you know yourself, that you're volatile. You know you're volatile, you know you're unstable, you know you're not ready to settle.
You know you're very selfish, you're jealous.
Probably you should reconsider about having kids instead of getting these kids and then jumping from one thing to the other, putting them over here, the other place, you know, then always cussing out these kids. If I didn't have you, my life would be better, you know. And these kids are the ones tying me down, and the kids are looking at you like, well, we didn't bring ourselves here. I mean, we were not even there when you and the other person were meeting. So I think it's something that people have got to really consider, that the same way you will think about every other investment that you have, and I'm not saying that children are an investment, but the same way you will think about every other major decision that you have, I think you really need to consider.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
When you said about that dad who showed up when this young man was about to sit for their national exams, you reminded me of scenarios where when you're just about to get married, that's where you realize you have a dad who is against
Dad, man.
against that marriage. But anyway, funny things that happen. So what CJ is saying, just allow the normalcy to continue for that very crucial stage in the life of this particular child. You can show up later, and if you want to be part and parcel of the life of this child, you have an opportunity, but not at that time when they're supposed to be making a major step.
You can actually show up without necessarily troubling the waters. Like, you don't have to force them and say, you know, I'm your dad, I'm your mom. No, show up. Pay the fees if you want to pay. You know, support if you want to support. They're not silly. They will be seeing that. Then at the proper time, the introduction will be done.
As we are about to wind up, let's talk about situations whereby it becomes Team A and Team B, QT. You get a situation whereby the parents have become so toxic that they've managed to split the children, to start even, you know, going against each other. There are people who favor mom, there are people who favor dad. And when the parents are separating, unasikia wanasema, me, I want to go with my dad. Me, I want to go with my mom. I mean, talk to us about that.
Well, first of all, we are not supposed to have teams, because we are a family. We are together. We are one. And as we say,
this family is crumbling.
It's crumbling down.
Either way.
And remember, whatever it is that you tell this child about that other parent, this child is going to believe you at the end of the day, because you're with them now. But what about the future? What about when this child grows up, they're an adult, and they're able to go and actually look for their dad? You know, guys are looking for their dads at this age and era. They are looking for their dads. They're looking for their moms. They're like, by the way, I need to know my roots. I need to know, where did I come from? Where is this? So once you start telling this child about the other parent, you know, your dad is a very bad person. You know, your dad left us. You know, your dad, you're damaging this child, first of all, mentally, emotionally, and you're also damaging any relationship that might have come in the future, because it's really important. Once you realize the importance of this other parent in this child's life, you will never do something like that. And that's why I'm saying, Safin, we have grown. I'm telling you, I used to think being a single mom in school, until you grow up and you're like, by the way, this child actually needs the other parent. They need their mom. You cannot be there 24/7, like, you know, unless it's a situation, God forbid, of the other parent died or was not there. But as long as the other parent is alive, you need to let this child, and willing, because we can't force. We are going to court battles of and a need to provide. You're going to child services. I'm not saying, I mean, everyone has their way of doing things, but you cannot force someone to actually take care of a child or being in someone. That's why you end up resenting this child, and you're like, by the way, mtoi, hata ananisumbua, hata singekuwa hapa saizi. I would not be here right now. I would be somewhere else, you know, doing my other things. This child, I would be building a house. I'd be in a business meeting right now. You know, there are people who don't actually have time for their children. But we need to realize that the way Bobby was saying, this is a lifetime job. Being a parent is a lifetime job, and it's a responsibility. So if you know that you're not ready to actually do this, why get into it in the first place? I know we say they're accidents, but they are not accidents. Hakuna kitu kama accident. Unajua kenye unafanya. So the minute umeanza ku engage yourself into these other activities, please note, a child might pop up anytime. And when this child comes, si washing machine ati utaiweka pale, utaipeleka kwa fundi, iende itengenezwe, si ati huyu parent mwingine.
But I looked at my time.
No. Usiulize. Usi machine ati utaipeleka kwa fundi.
Kitu moja umesema, punchline hapo, parenting is
it's a lifetime job, and it's your responsibility. You cannot
escape. As old as we are, mzazi bado anakupigia, bado uko nje.
Imagine saizi, even my mom, Yani my mom comes to my place even now.
Uko sawa?
Uko sawa. Madhe
Nasikia
tukinipigia. You know,
Tunaishia machakula.
umekula. Kwa nini uko na homa? Kwani jana uko na
lifetime
sweater?
job.
It's a lifetime job. So if you're not ready, Safin, just
nayo.
wachana nayo. Kama unajua tu uko ready, wachana nayo, ka single, ama tu kuwa responsible, na make sure it does not happen to you, by the way.
All right. Roberta, parting shots nafunga sasa.
So this
Ongea
is,
na wazazi.
this is to the parents, yeah. To the parents, listen, it's never too late to learn on the job. You can learn when your kid is 5 years old. You can learn when they're 10 years old. You can learn when they're 50. You can learn when they're 40. The thing is the intentionality, the wanting to be a parent, the deliberation that comes with parenthood. Don't feel like all hope is lost because maybe your kids don't listen to you, or because you don't have your kids right now, or because you have relationship issues and you don't know how to navigate. Just know that it gets better. But now you have to take the work seriously. It's like going to the gym, Cutie can tell you. It's like even being a coach, CJ can tell you, you have to show up every day until the day that it starts working out. Every day you show up, you fail, you make mistakes, you fail, you lose, you wake up and you try again and again, and eventually it works out, I promise. So please put in the deliberation that is needed in relationships, especially with your kids. Put them first, think of them. Unfortunately, once you agree to be a parent, to put yourself first kinda slightly goes out the door. I mean, you just have to think about them. I mean, yes, you are your number one priority in your life, but then once you have kids, they're like priority 1.0. They're just there next to you. Yeah. It's you and them on the same level, on the same frequency. So please be very intentional with your kids, and they'll grow up loving you. Even if you're the parent who didn't have money or the parent who had to work all the time. CJ said, kids are not dumb. They know, they see the intentionality, they know. And Cutie said, when they come to look for you, it's a bit easier. You have a better case when, you know, you are in the background. Nataka ukukua hapo frontline. Kama ulikuwa, look, I used to do this, I used to try, it matters. So please don't give up hope. It gets better.
It gets better. Yeah. And we're not saying you have to stick together if it's not working.
Yeah.
All we are saying is that the children don't have to pay the price for whatever decision you both are making. But CJ, your parting shot?
Well, instead of a parting shot, I just thought about maybe we should talk about when parenting really gets complicated in terms of, for example, this lady has 4 kids and 3 of them have different fathers. You know, they're 3 different fathers. So when you're talking about even elements of custody, maybe the father of one wants to take custody, but then that means that this kid is being uprooted from people they've known to be their siblings. And this has been their family. So how do the other children begin to look at themselves, and where does that put them? Again, then that brings up the element of whatever decisions that we are making, we have got to consider the elements of continuity, stability. We've got to consider capacity, because maybe I want to pull away my child. I feel that I will take care of them better. But then these are the people they've known as their siblings. And maybe the father to this other child is not as well to do as I am doing. So how do I ensure that my child has continuity and still take care of them? And how do I now relate with the other child?
True.
So considering those complications, I think when you are in that kind of situation, again, don't be selfish. Don't be selfish, because you will be winning on one side and creating other complications on the other side.
Great. So the overall feeling that you're getting from this conversation is that put the interest of the child first. It will guide you in every decision that you want to make, whether you want to move, whether you want to stay in that relationship, whether you want to take the children or not, whatever decision that you have to make at that crucial moment, the interest of the child will guide you just to know the right thing to do. And we leave it there. We hope you've learned something. We will, of course, continue having these very important conversations right here on Daybreak every Tuesday. Thank you so much for creating time to join us this particular morning. My name is Safina Chengoma. Have a lovely day ahead.